This is Gemara Menachos Daf Pei Vav, and we're holding on Pei Hey Amid Beis, the last line of the Amid, as we quote the Mishnah. And the Mishnah continues by teaching us Ein Meviin, though we're discussing the shemen, the oil of the carbon mincha. Says the Mishnah, Ein Meviin, one cannot bring Loi Mi Beis Hazvalim, not from fertilized fields. And the Mishnah concluded, not from an pikanoin oil, and if you did, even b'diavad, it's going to be possible. So says the Gemara, this din of a pikanoin, which of course is a little interesting that in the headline we don't quote this, but either way, says the Gemara, V'atanya, we learned in a brayso, Ein mevi'in an pikatoin. We cannot bring a pikatoin ba and v'imhevi puzzle. As we turn over to Pei Vav Amud Aleph, and if you bring it, it's puzzle. V'atanya, or not v'atanya, it depends on the gersa over here, maybe kosher. Mimnei shehu saraf, because it is considered a secretion, not oil. So we have a stira. B'diavad, if you brought this anipa coin and pikanoin, oil, b'diavad, is it kosher or is it pasul? Our Mishnah said pasul, and we have conflicting braysos. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef leikasha Rav Chia Rav Shimon bar Rebbe. These is the two opinions. The Rav Chia Zarak for Rav Chia throughout that Bikanoin, Rav Shimon bar Rebbe Matul Bey, and Shimon bar Rebbe dipped his food into it. That what he used it as oil. So says the Gemara, that's going to be the two shitos. If we hold that it's going to be oil, but it's going to be of poor quality, then it's going to be possible diavad. According to other shita, it's going to be kosher v'simanayich. And what is the simon to remember this? Ashir mekamsin, the wealthy are kamsanim. They don't use everything. They don't use, once there's no usage for it, then it is discarded. Says the Gemara, so that's going to be the two different shitais. Again, if you look at Rashi in the top line, he tells us whom is who. Rav Shimon Matzel Bey Avi Shemen v'Mevi Basel. It's going to be Shemen, and that's why the B'diavad is going to be Basel. Or do we hold it's going to be a mere secretion and not oil, and therefore it's not going to be considered amongst the Basel oils, and therefore it's going to be B'diavad kosher. A little bit counterintuitive, but those are the two shitas. Says the Gemara, Shish Chadash B'Shemen Amar. We quote a pasuk from Megillah Esther, as we're going to see what an pikanoin is. The pasuk teaches us that all the girls that they waited for Achashverosh, they sat for 6 months. B'Shemen Amar, my Shemen Amar. What is this fascinating Shemen Amar? Rav Huna bar Chia Amar, Sat Chasa oil. Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar, Shemen Zayish Levi Shemen Zayish that did not ripen a third. This two dots is a little bit not in the right place. So why do they rub these oils on them? This oil that didn't grow a third, this unripe oil. Because it had the properties to remove the hair from the body, as well as cause the skin to glow, and therefore it had that depilatory effect on the body, and that's why the girls did it. So that's what we have the balance over here, whether on pikanoin is this oil or not, and that's why the Gemara brings down the shemen hamor. We continue the end of the Mishnah. We're 10 lines down. We don't bring oil from olive berries that were soaked in water, not from those that were pickled, not from those that were boiled. Tanarabban, shemen zayis kavush, olive oil that was pickled, shaluk sharui, boiled or soaked, v'shel shemarim, olive oil made from sediment, shal reach ra, olive oil has a bad smell. Lo yavi, all these cannot be brought as a carbon mincha. V'imhevi, and if they are pasul, it's going to be pasul. So by Rab, hekdesh yumau, if someone is a makdish these oils for a carbon mincha. Shall yilkul alav misham balmum. Do we say, and this is the first cousin of the Gemara we had yesterday, do we say that you get malchus? It's similar to balmum bringing these bad oils. Came to apostle kval mum dami. Aydama now in balmum el bebehema. Says the Gemara, it is indeed a good kasha. We have to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi for that one. Teku. We continue with the Mishnah, continuing in the different qualities, the different types of oils. The lechatchila, the b'diavad, says the Mishnah. Shloisha zeitim hein. There's 3 times a year when olives are harvested. Ubahem, and from those 3 times, shloisha shemanim. There are 3 grades, each of those 3, there's 3 grades. So there'll be 9 types of oil in reality, 3 times of harvest, 3 grades each harvest. Says the Mishnah, Hazayis Arish Shemanim. Hazayis Arishain, Megagurai Baraish Hazayis. You pick the crop at the top of the tree, the koitesh, and you crush it, and nice in the toich asal, you put it in the basket. Yehuda Omer Svivois asal. Yehuda says you put it around the basket. After you crush them, to put on the inside of the basket walls. Zau Rishain. This is the first harvest. This is the first oil of the harvest. Then we go and we press this with a beam to get more oil. Rav Yudaimer, Ba'avanim with stones, Zesheni. Chazar v'tochan, and then after, so the first one you were squeezing by hand. The second one you have the beam, or you have the oven on it. That's the second time these olives are being pressed. And the third is chazar v'tachan, is a grinding, that you're actually grinding up the olives. Zehu shlishi, that's going to be the third oil of each harvest. And now what do we do with these 3? Harisha, and on the first oil line is the menorah. V'hashar, and the other 2 are la menachos. And of course, we're going to have each of these 3 at each of the 3 times, which is going to equal our 9 different oils. V'hashar la menachos. Hasheni, now what do we do by the second harvest? We pick from the top of the, now it's not from Reish Ha'ilon, as we saw a moment ago. Now it is Reish Hagag, the top of the roof. Rav Yehuda Imer says, Rav Yehuda Sviva says, no, you put it around the basket. Ton Ba'kaira, you have the press on it. You have Ravanim with stones. Sheni. Chazir Tacham v'Tan Zashlishi. Harish Lemenei Reish Menachos. Hashlishi, continues the Mishnah. The third harvest. Shlishi oitinai bebeis habad ad sheyilke. You pack in a vat until it becomes spoiled. You put so many olives in it, umaleu managveu bereish agag, and then you take it up, you dry it on the roof. You crush it in the basket. You asal around the basket. Zeh rishon. Tom ba'kaira on the press. You demer ba'avanim with stones. Zeh sheni. Chazar v'tacham v'taan. Zeh shlishi rishon mener v'shal menachos. So 3 different processes, 3 different crops, how they created these olive oils. Says the Gemara, Ibayalahu. Let's ask a very fundamental shayla, which will give us a little bit of insight as to the precise story in our Mishnah. Ibayalahu. What is the right way of reading the Mishnah? Do we say he picks it, migargaroi, or migalgaloi, or he allows it to ripen? Is he picking the olives on the top of the tree in step number 1, or is he leaving them on top of the tree until they ripen? We learned in our Brisa, so it makes a neder to bring shemizayis. Mezeta, it should be taken from it should be the type of oil that drips from the olive without any pressing. Mikan amru, from here we learn, zayit arishain for the first olive, zayit arishain for the first olive harvest, megal galoi b'reisha zayis. We let it ripen on top of the tree. Listen to Lashon Megal Giloi. Then you bring it to the press. And you put in the basket shemen hayoytze mimenu, the oil that comes out. That is the first crop. Tan v'kaira, you put the press on top of it, the beam. Shemen hayoytze mimenu, the olive that comes, oil comes from it. Zehu hashen chazer uparak. Then you go back and you remove the olives from the press. Tachan, you grind it v'tan, you put it back under the beam. Zehu yashlishi. Harish l'menairav ashar l'menachos chem zayishen v'chem zayis shlishi. You do the same thing for the second and for the third. Harisha l'menairav. Nope, I skipped. Excuse me. Zehu. Zeh. We lost the place. 1 second. Harish l'menairav ashar l'menachos v'chem zayis sheni v'zayis shlishi. When it comes to the third, you pack it into the press. Achiyel ketil. It could spoil. Now you bring it all up to the top of the roof. I come in tomorrow, and you make it like a date. You pile it all up till all the liquids are flowing out. The cuts of the face bad. You bring it back to ala press. You grind it in the mill. You put it in the basket. Parak v'chazer v'tachan v'tohan zehu ha'ashlish. Rish l'menairav ashar l'menach. Yehuda merleyu techna b'yerchayim el kodshe b'machteshes. Says Rav Yehuda, they didn't put it in the mill, but rather kodshe b'machteshes, they ground it with the mortar. Lo yitayin b'kaira. He would not press them with the beam. El ba'avanim, rather with stones. Lo yinaisa b'sal and el toich sviva is ha sal. So we see Klar says the Gemara, we brought down this whole long lengthy brisa to prove that it was megalgaloi, that they allowed it to ripen, and then only subsequently would they pick it. And that explains and elaborates on what the Mishnah meant. Says the Gemara, but now that we quoted this whole lengthy brisa, we have a kasha on our Mishnah. Hagufa kasha, 7 lines from the bottom. Koitesh mani. Who is the opinion that says he pounds it? Rav Yehuda. Techasal, the opinion that says you put it straight in the basket, not around the basket, is as on the Rabbanan. Hi, Tanas Avla Kavasei V'chado, Polygal V'chado. It says Marina Chanami. We never liked this. It's not overly gishmak. But that's the reality. Tana holds like Rav Yehuda in one vein and not in another. Continues with the Mishnah on the bottom of Pevav Amid Aleph. Harishain Shaberishain Ein Lemal Mimenu. The first something greater than it. Hasheni Shaberishain, the second one of the first crop. Harishain Shabesheni, and the first of the second crop. Shavin, those two are equal. Shlishi Shaberishain, the third press of the first. Hasheni Shabesheni. Harisha Shabeshlishi, those are Shavin. Shlishi Shabesheni, the third of the second time. Sheni Shabeshlishi, the second of the third. Shavin. Shlishi Shabeshlishi ein lamati menu. So that's the progression. As you see, each level overlaps a little bit with the previous level. Continues the Mishnah, 3 lines to the bottom. Av kol ha-menachos haya bedin. All the menachos bedin sheitanu shemen zayizach really require pure olive oil. Why? Ma min noira shein lachila. The menorah is not to eat it, and yet Tunim Shem Zayizach. Menachos shein lachila. Ein oidein is not pasha. Shouldn't Shem Zayizach. Ta'amalaimer zach kosis lamar. Vein zach kosis lamenachos. It says the Gemara, you're right, bidin. You're right, maybe misvara. However, from the Pesukim we learn no, that davka for the menorah is going to be kosis lamar, which is not going to apply to the carbon mincha. And with that, we move on to Amid Beis. Says the Gemara, Shavin. Really? Are they equal? The Mishnah concluded teaching us the different levels. The second of the first harvest is equal to the first of the second harvest, the chulu, etc. Says the Gemara, is that accurate? Are they really equal? V'amrib, or we learned in a brayso, Rishon laminayra v'ashar laminachais, teaches the previous Mishnah that the first oil is for the minayra and the rest is for the menachos. So clearly they're not equal. My shavin the menachos. What does it mean equal? Equal for menachos. I've called menachos ebadin. All the menachos as well. Bidin should require pure olive oil. Tanu Rabbanon, says the Gemara, 4 lines down. Peivavam Zach, says the pasuk, the Torah for the menorah has to be pure. Ein Zach ela naki clean. Rav Yudah Mer Kosis. Ein Kosis ela katush. What does it mean? It has to be crushed. It means katush. It means pounded with a mortar. Yachal everything is Zach Kosis pasol Menachos. I would have thought that pure oil from crushed olives maybe is pasol for Menachos. Maybe since the pasuk says kosis lamar, so maybe he tells us that the pounded olives are dafka lamar, but not for the Menachos. Tamalim Rav Yisrael said, let's below Bashemen kosis. Imkain, if that is true, that the shem for the Menachos comes from these pounded oils, Imkain matam lamar. What does the term mean to say? Lamar elamimnei hachisachoin. Rather, it teaches us that oil from these olives is not required for Menachos. Why? Because we want to be careful and mindful, we should say, of the money of Klal Yisrael. Therefore, these oils, which are going to be more expensive, will not be used for the Menachos. Ma'chi sachin, what's this word? Amar Rav Elazar, ha'toira chasa, amamayna shel Yisrael. Says the Gemara, another pshat in the pasuk. Savas b'nei Yisav yichol Hashem and Zayizach Amar B'Shema Bar Nachmani lecho v'loyli loyla ani tzarich. Pasuk says Hashem and Zayizach. Excuse me. Pasuk v'yichul lecho, and he should take it for you. What does that mean? For you? Why? Because loyla ani tzarich. Says Hashem, I don't need. God does not need light. We prove there. Shochem atzav m'ner b'darein. Shulchan is in the north and the Menorah is in the south. Amar Rav Zik, Amar Rav Elazar, Lachila ani tzarich. That's why the Torah not placed the Shulchan and the Menorah of Le'layra ani tzarich. V'yasu. V'yas lefana lebayis chaloni shkafim atumim. And says the pasuk they built for the Beis Hamikdash Shlomo HaMelech. He made windows that are wide and narrow. Tana shkoifim mivivnein v'atumim mivachotz. They're wide on the outside and narrow on the inside. Why? Le'layra ani tzarich. Hashem says they're not really made for light. If they were made for light, they would be the other way. The other way. Rashi explains that if you want to maximize the light, what would we do? You would have the inside would be wider than the outside, and thereby, when the light would come in, it would spread out and give off more light. The fact that it was wider on the outside and then went in, minimize the light. Says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, because I don't really need the light. Says the Gemara, we're about 15 lines down. Quotes the Gemara, the pasuk. What does it mean outside of the Chazal B'Reiches is the Eidos in the Oyel Moyed. Says the Gemara what the Eidos is. The Eidos is for everyone. Eidos L'Chabal Yolam Shashchina Shayra B'Yisrael. This is Eidos, that the Shechina dwells with Klal Yisrael. V'im Taimer, and if you say Lo'ira Ani Tzarich, and if you're going to say Hashem needs a light, V'haloi Kol Arba'im Shana Shalchi Saba Midbar, all 40 years guys in the Midbar. Lo Halchu Ala Lo'ira. We didn't travel. We didn't have a menorah. We went by Hashem's light. What's that eidos? Amarava zener ma'aravi shenois b'shemek keneged chavreiseha. Same amount of oil as all the other candles, and yet that candle always stayed lit, and that was the eidos that Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one providing the light. And let's stop over here. We'll pick up from this Mishnah as this flows into the next Amid, which we'll be finishing the parak as well. B'siyata d'shmaya.